All right, guys, I want to do a video tonight. I'll end up doing something more inspirational. I was thinking about doing the customs of Jewish women, and I'll probably touch on that tomorrow or next few days. But I wanted to read something today from the midrash Rabba, and we're on Parashat 9. And this is probably one of the most touching sections of the midrash Rabba that I read. This reminds me of Klal Israel when approaching a earthly king that has, I don't want to say accept us, but because we know the text, it clearly, it clearly kind of indicates that Xerxes didn't know that that Esther, or Hadassah, her name, was Jewish. So the text is very kind of more blatant about it, but I still think personally this touches me, but reminds us when we have favor with our earthly king, and that it is HaShem that allows that favor. In a lot of cases, in the last thousand or so years, that wasn't always the case. So I'm gonna read the section, and I'll let you guys go. She donned her beautiful clothing and her splendor adornments. She took her two maidservants with her and placed her right hand on one maidservant, leaning on her for support in accordance with royal protocol, while the second maidservant followed the mistress and supported her trade, preventing the gold on it from touching the ground. And Esther, or Hadassah, made her face appear happy, concealing the worry that was in her heart. And she entered the inner court facing the king and stood before him, while the king was sitting on his royal throne, wearing gold vestments and precious stones. When he lifted his eyes and saw Esther standing opposite of him, his anger burned exceedingly within him over the fact Esther had violated his law by appearing before him without an invitation. Esther lifted her eyes and saw the king's face, and behold, his eyes were burning like fire from a great anger that was in his heart. The queen recognized that extreme degree of the king's anger, and she became very frightened. Her spirit became faint, and she placed her hand on her maidservant, who was supporting her right hand. But our God saw her distress and had compassion for his nation, and he turned his attention to the pain of the orphan who put her trust in him. He then endowed her with grace before the king and added further beauty to her pre-existing beauty and further splendor to her pre-existing splendor. And when Xerxes saw this, he was captivated by her. The king then rose from his throne hurriedly. He ran to embrace Esther and embraced her, kissed her, and threw his arms around her neck. The king said to her, "Queen Esther, why are you afraid? This law was instituted against appearing before the king uninvited. It is not applicable to you, for you are my beloved and companion." He further said to her, "Why, when I first saw you, did you not speak?" Esther replied, "My master, the king, when I saw you, I became awestruck by your majesty, and I was unable to speak." Now, Baruch Hashem. This reminds me, I got the sniffles. This reminds me of several things. One, can this act as us appearing before HaShem, the God of Israel? Sure. This could be that. And it's interesting. We see in the midrash that the word is used as Elokeinu. So Elokeinu, as you guys know, is different from the name HaShem. So we can even kind of toy with that a little bit and say HaShem himself can represent King Xerxes, and we represent Esther represents the children of Israel. And there is a sense of protocol in getting ready to stand before the king. We do see in Hilakoth Tefillah, in the Rambam, where we're supposed to say the Amidah, Shemon Esrei, we are supposed to be dressed well, we're supposed to be bathed, we're supposed to be clean. As well as we see with Queen Esther that she was queen, but she was clean and ready before going before the king and praying, seeing the king. As we get ready before we see the king, we should wear our best when we daven in the morning, and this is very important. It's the idea that we see. It's not in we don't see in the Bible. We don't see it in Enoch, but I guess it can allude to it in the sense is cleanliness and orderedness is next to godliness. And sometimes we don't do the greatest job. I don't do the greatest job. Actually, it's so funny. I seen a video years ago, social media, and then there was a camera, and then everywhere else it was a mess. And you just seen the camera on the person's face. And sometimes it's true. And sometimes we have to make the extra effort in our own lives to bring HaShem and bring order to our lives so HaShem could flow through our lives in a very easier way. Doesn't mean HaShem isn't there. By no means. I would never say that. There are very good godly people that are very busy and it's hard to keep up with a home. And I don't say those people aren't godly. They're godly. There's times my house is a mess. We have 5 children. We homeschool. It gets messy. But I do stay on my children. I'm on them 24 hours, and I'm also doing things as well to keep up. With that said, there's an orderness. And there's a place that Hashem wants us to come to. But at the same time, doesn't mean we cannot touch God or God cannot touch us in those places where we are busy or whatnot. There's a story from the Berdichever Rebbe, and he, what he did was there was a man who was trying to fix a tire with tefillin on. Not a tire, but a wheel. This was the old country. This was before tires or cars. And he fixed the wheel. And some people say the Berdichever was praising him and kind of looking down on him at the same time with the comment he said. I think he was looking up to him in that particular case because that's how precious the mitzvahs was to this individual in the halakha, where he had to work and live. And in that working and living in these rural environments, sometimes you have to get dirty, even doing the most precious things. He was living. Now, of course, we know the protocol with tefillin, clean body, you cannot be around fecal matter or whatnot. There's loads of halakot for tefillin. And so I don't want to downplay that. But at the same time, we have to live. So I'm not trying to throw shame on people who are trying to live or whatnot. I don't have that authority to do that. But I will say this, that it brings a different dimension when the environment is perfect. But at the same time, a demon can rest in a perfect environment as well. So we have to watch ourselves with that. Hashem wants joy. He wants smiling children. He wants happy faces. Oh, pardon me. I'm running again. And so this is something we gotta think about. But I think this is this time of year, this midrash always connects to me, and it takes me back to the place of cleaving to HaShem and His Torah, and that He loves all of us, Jews as Jews, just as we are. We don't have to become Christians. We don't have to become Muslims. We could be who we are. And I just want to encourage you, keep the fight. Keep focused on Hashem. Keep focused on His mitzvahs. And He cares. He loves you. And we don't, some rules we don't, as what He said, some of the rules He made, we don't have to, of course we have to follow the Torah. I'm not saying we don't have to follow Torah, we have to follow Torah. But that's how much He loves us. Like certain protocols we don't have to rule, because we don't need a middleman. We could come to Hashem ourselves. And this is very important to realize, and for some of you to realize, that Hashem is there, and we could approach Him one-on-one. Well, I won't keep you. Shavua Tov, and talk to you soon.